Authors Tell All, a podcast by Shy Soul. She's bringing you author interviews, book discussions, and more. Stay tuned.
Quiz Cube, play that beat again. Quiz Cube, play that beat again.
Just listen.
Authors Tell All, a podcast by Shy Soul. She's bringing you author interviews, book discussions, and more. Stay tuned.
Quiz Cube, play that beat again. Quiz Cube, play that beat again.
Just listen. Hi, everyone. We are here with author Melissa LaDrew. She is going to be speaking about her book, You Got Me in a Bad Way, and many more of her works and many more things for her to come. Now, hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Shy?
I'm doing great. So glad to have you on the show. I've been trying to get Melissa on the show for the longest. She knows this, but she's a very busy lady.
I know. I'm so excited. Thank you.
No problem. Now, to start this off, let's talk about your book that was recently released, You Got Me in a Bad Way. Let's talk about that.
Okay, well, You Got Me in a Bad Way was released in July. In July, I was with a publishing company. Then the publishing company wasn't working for me, so I decided to go indie and then republish it, which I found out did much better than when it was published with a publishing company. We'll just leave the past in the past because the past was more negativity to my life and to my publishing, publishing my book and everything and making it come, my dream and what I really wanted to become of. But it really didn't happen that way until I became indie.
Yes.
So I just say I look forward to the future and leave all the negativity behind me. That's
great positivity. That's what I was about to say. That's very great positivity.
Oh, yeah. So I just want to let all the new inspiring authors and everything just take your time and not rush like I did and look into getting a publishing company, getting known, getting your book out there. Do your research. Take your time. Because not all publishers are out there to make you pop and make you know they're about $1 and making their money.
Exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page with that because, I had my little issues as well. We both prevailed over that. And, just continue to do what we love to do. Now, for that book, what made you want to write You Got Me in a Bad Way?
Well, at first it was called Borrowed Man, because that's the title that I picked. But then the publishing company, my publisher was like, oh, no, that doesn't pop, make it into something else. But what inspired me is watching a friend of mine go through a cheating husband, taking him back, cheating again, you take him back, he has other children on you, you take him back. But then in the end, she lost because she had nothing, because she always depended on her man. So I came up with the story about writing You Got Me in a Bad Way, where you never mess with a scorned woman. Some scorned women come on top and they make the man pay. So I wanted my book to make the man pay instead of the woman always suffering.
Ooh, I like the reversal. I really do. That really makes the story pop, like you just said. It does. Now, what really had drawn me in with this story is one, I do like the title, but the title that you told me about before, I was like, I was mad. I was like, well, why you couldn't have that title, Because you know how I just love when the author has the creativity to be able to pick the titles that they like, and be able to stick with that. Because, it's going to be other people who see that time like, ooh, I like this. Let me pick up this book, So, when you told me that really made me want to read the book. So, when you sent me the snippets and everything and whatever we were doing, I read the book on my own. And I was like, this really is a good book. I could not put it down. I was like, I need to get on her level. That's why I shouted you out my book and all that. So I can get on her level because this is the type of stuff I love reading. I love writing, So that's a very good inspiration, especially to me.
Thank you. But your book is very good as well. Maybe cry in the beginning. And don't say my level because guess what? As authors, we all have our certain level type of writing. Again, when we say we get bad reviews or people don't like it, I have no negativity towards no one's book because we all have our writing style.
Exactly.
What's good for me may not be, good for the next. What I like, the next person may like, not like.
That is true, because you can't really please everybody.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of people talk about, how they didn't like this book, how they didn't like that book. It's different types of reads.
That's very correct. Now, what you said earlier, I want to touch upon that. How did publishing your first book change the process of your writing?
Well, I'm a first-time author. That was my first book I ever put out there. So I say now, I know what to do and what not to do inside of a book where, my writing is getting more descriptive words in it, where I know how to really describe something and make something pop, more drama in it. And also by reading, other books by other people, that helps also. Helps a lot. It teaches you, the formatting, how to come up with different words, how to, just put it in writing, but putting it to your own perspective.
That is very true. Because I really love how Melissa, how she gives that different perspective in her stories, especially with her characters, especially what she did with Fatima. She really made her dynamic and different. Really, really did. And that's what drew me in too, because I love when an author such as Melissa can really do a character that somebody has done before, but really put their spin on it. That's what really puts you into her book. That's what I say. That's what really draws you into Melissa's book. That's a fact. Now, what is your process, of writing your book?
Well, I just recently started writing maybe 5. Because I work full time. So I'm working 40 hours a week. So some nights I may feel like I want to write. Some nights I may not. But I might take 2 hours at a time, and I do 500 words per hour.
Wow, that's goals. I like.
Oh, yeah. So, like today, I took the time 4 hours. I took 4 hours. I started writing 500 words per hour. And I took a break, which I'm still on break for about another hour. And then I'll pick back up again. And I'll do enough for, 500 words per hour until I fall asleep.
Now, to touch up on what you just said, does writing energize you, or may it sometimes exhaust you? Like, what is that for you, like, when you write all day?
To me, it energizes me because it makes me want to write more. Like, oh, okay, I put this twist on the book, so you know what? I don't want to fall asleep till I finish this chapter. I have to finish this plot right here. So it pushes me to do more, so it energizes me.
That's how I feel too, because when I write, well, you know me, I'm a very busy young lady. So when I write, when I write, it makes me feel, I've told you this before, it makes me feel good. I want to write all day, but then, like you told me before, you don't want to exhaust yourself. So I pace myself. I've learned to just pace myself, just write down any ideas that I may have. If I can't continue writing, just write all that down. That's how I operate. Even though I stay up really late and everything like that, this.
You sure do.
Yeah, that's just the passion of writing and just getting the ideas over and over again. You don't want to stop writing, but then once the eyelids get heavy, that's a signal that you need to take your break, get your little nap in, and then go back at it if you need to.
Oh, yeah.
So,
especially like for me, I wake up out of my sleep and I write. I'm like, oh my goodness.
I was just about to ask you that.
Well, when I'm waking up, I'm going to write that. I'll pick up my phone and I just start typing in there. I have like a text message that says my number, and that's my number where I will text message myself a whole chapter if I have to.
That's something, because an author had just said that today. She said that's how she operates with when she's writing. Like if she's out and about, she will write it in her phone or her notes or everything, or then send it to herself when she gets back or anything like that. So I do that too. Honestly, I do.
Oh yeah.
Helps you keep track. So how do you, speaking of that, since we're on that topic, how do you balance making demands for readers and like taking care of your readers with your books and the further books you'll come out with later on?
Well, with me, I found it where readers do a lot for us because without them, there will be no reading our books, whatever. So I found that giving back to readers does a lot. Like, I have watches coming in that I gave to 50 readers. Because if they can pay for our books, we should be able to do something for them. That's what I think.
Right.
They deserve something. They deserve something because they're taking the time out to read our books in their busy time. They're buying our books. So why not give back to them?
Mm-hmm. That's
and
true.
I find out having a relationship with them, like conversation with them through inboxes. I do a couple of contests for them to win something, like makeup contests. Then I'll do book giveaways. Then I'll do like the watch contest. I mean, I give out 50 watches.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I did not know that. Why am I late to this? Because, you know, I would have promoted this heavily. I had no idea. I love it.
Oh, yeah. I gave out 50 watches to my readers. I'm still waiting for them to come in because when it comes from China, it takes a long time for the bulk shipment to come in. So it takes, you know, a while, you know, over 20 to 30 days before you get them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start giving back to my readers.
I love it. I do that as well. Well, of course, you know that.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, my question is, do you view writing as a kind of spiritual practice?
Well, to me, writing is my hobby where I don't go out much or anything like that. So, it was something I used to do as a little kid because growing up as a little child, only child, my mother always kept me in the house. I could never do anything. My dad's a deacon, so I definitely couldn't do anything. So the only thing I can do is pick up a book, write. I used to write short poems. It's funny because my dad sent me a picture from when I was like, I want to say I was in the 5th grade in the newspaper. And we were reading our poems for a contest, and it made the newspaper. So, you know, I find it's just like a little getaway for me.
Mm-hmm.
It relaxes my mind, more like a meditation thing where, you know, when you're a loner, not loner, I want to say in that sense, but when you like to be alone and do your thing, writing is my thing.
Same for me too. Mm-hmm. Because I found that writing really like helped me with, because I'm very shy. Well, I was a very shy person, let me say that. And writing was like my escape, you know, to just be to myself, you know, write my stories. And at first, I never wanted anybody to read my stories at all. Because I was like, this is just for me. And, you know, nobody's going to like my stories. Until a friend was like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, I'm writing, right? Like, I felt like I was busted. Like, I was doing a crime or something. She was like, oh, let me read it. So, she got back to me in the next day and said, what you just wrote is really good. Like, you should put it on this app and such and such and such. And that's what really got me started. Was somebody who's seen what I can do and really took interest in it. I was like, wow, I thought nobody wasn't going to like it. Right? I was like, oh, you're just saying that. She was like, no, the story is really good. I was like, okay, well, I'll take a chance in it. And that's what I did. And writing really brought me out of my shell. Really did.
Oh, yeah.
Really did.
I feel like that. I will send my stories over to Eva Valentina, my 10th sister. I love her. I don't care what time it is. I am always in her inbox, like, ooh, sis, what do you think about this? Does this sound good?
Mm-hmm.
It could be like 3 o'clock in the morning, but I know she's up because she's up writing herself. But, you know, since becoming an author, I've met so many, you know, talented authors. You know, Bila Valentina, Dollface, C, you know, so I love it because it's like a, you know, sisterhood, friendship. So, you know, like friends you haven't seen up close, but friends you know that are there and it's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I called you plenty of times.
Yes, you have. And I have no problem with that at all. And since you said that, she popped right in the chat. She said, sure do. I'll always be there. And she's very sweet. So, I already know.
Yeah, I love her. That's my sis.
Of course. Now, what I wanted to ask you is, as an author, now that you've gotten a lot of recognition, you know, you've gotten a lot of great reviews, how do you feel as this has taken off for you so well? How do you feel about that?
I never thought it would take off well for me at all. Like you said before, you never thought anybody would like your stories or anything like that. I felt the same way with this book. But then when the second book came out and I hit number 1, I was like so excited. I was like at work screaming like, oh my gosh, I'm number 1. I can't believe it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, people are loving my story. So maybe, you know, I need to get that confidence up all the time and say, hey, you know what? I can do this. People love my stories, you know. And then with the help of my sis, of course, because I'm always in D. Londella Team's inbox, and I'm like, sis, what do you think about that? And it was funny because she edited the second book. And when she edited the second book, she was like, sis, you are so lazy. And I was like, I know I'm lazy when it comes to writing, but she was like, it's good, though. So she fixed it up and everything, and she was like, okay. She was like, your next book better not be sloppy like this. You must not be lazy with it. But, I mean, I have to admit, I was very lazy with the second book. And you know what? I have to say, without her, it wouldn't have turned out to be number 1.
That's
she
great.
Helped me a lot.
That's great. Now, what you said about being lazy, I've had my times where I was feeling like, oh, I don't know about this book, and I'm just writing. Like, when I get like that, and I just feel like I'm not putting that emotion that I want to in my story, I feel as if it's not going to be good. And the moment I doubt my story, and I'm just being lazy about writing or just making it sloppy, that's the moment I'm going to get that feedback from my publisher and editor, because they'll be like, well, she doesn't write like this. Is she okay? Is just too much pressure on her with a book or anything? People are going to know, because people know how I am and how I write. Like, if I don't post, well, you already know this. If I don't post anything on Facebook or anything about my books or my art or whatever, you'll be the first one and many others in my phone calling me, texting me like, are you okay? What's wrong? And stuff like that, you know? That's why I love my urban community. Like, I thought it was going to be hard coming into this. It's really not.
No. You have us. We support one another, and that's what I like about it. The new authors, we're like really very, very supportive. We're like our own support group.
Yes. But then, that's another question side of that. Then you have the ones that, you know what I'm about to say, that aren't really supportive. The ones that are the authors that are about themselves, I should say, in a kind way, because, you know, I don't want to be, messy. So, there you have those authors who just, I mean, they interact, but in a certain way. It just, I don't know how to describe that, because I don't really want to say too much, but a few authors have been through that, the attacking and all that little extra stuff, and I don't feel it's necessary, and that's exactly why I say this on my podcast, because as an author, as a reader, you shouldn't have to go through that. It should be just, you can connect with people. If they don't want to connect with you, to just disregard it and let it be. Don't try to be sneaky about it. Just write your books, connect, and because still enough money out for all of us, So I just don't see that reason for that.
And that's the one you keep. That's like the negativity part that you want to keep away from you. You want to keep that away, because negativity never gives you a positive outcome. They bring you down with them. So I'm big on keep the negative people away from you. Get rid of the bad seeds away from you. Because if you come around with positive people and influencers, you come out on top. So you want to have influencers because they give value to your life. And if you don't have an influencer and they come in and they just want to, you have the ones that just want to copy your style, the ones that are just want to see what you're doing, the nosy people. Those ones you just say, hey, you know what? You keep them at a distance.
Exactly. And that is really a follow-up question. Like, what is the most unethical practice in the publishing industry? Well, the urban publishing industry. Like, what's your view on that? Let's get a little connection what we were just talking about. But what's your view on that? Mm-hmm.
So, my thing of where I started off at, of having someone who said they can do something for me and teach me things where they taught you some of the things, but they didn't teach you everything because they didn't want you to outshine them. Even though they were on a higher level, but I think you still should teach other, authors coming out how to get to that level. You should want to see other people to see with you. There's money out there for, like you said, for everyone to get.
Because, it's just things that I see, and this is exactly why I talk about this stuff, because, hey, this is my platform, and if Facebook is other authors' platforms to, speak on certain stuff or say shady things or stuff like that, I'm going to go the different route and, speak on it so new authors who come into this urban industry can already know, can already be aware of scamming or publishers who really don't care. They'll publish as many books as they want before they publish their author's book.
Exactly.
That's it.
And those are the ones that are not ready to be a boss. They're not made to be a boss.
Exactly.
To me, a publisher like Leo Sullivan, you don't see him producing books all the time. He produces books for his artists under him. Because that's what a publisher, supposed to do. You're not supposed to pop out books all the time. You're supposed to have to help the people under you shine. Because it's a company. Mm-hmm. And that's, just what I think about it. That's what a publisher should be doing.
Exactly. And that goes to say, my next question, do you think that a big ego can help or hurt writers / publishers? That's the next thing. Like, is it the ego? Can that help them in some way, or can that really hurt them? With all the social media and all the ways that you can communicate with people. And, it's just the point of how can you either take your ego to attack this author or take it in the right way? Or promoting yourself. Yeah.
To me, there's publishers out there that really do care about their authors underneath them, but then you have the ones that are just starting to publish for authors, and they're just learning where they take off and they know what they're doing. But then you have those, I want to say, seniority authors that are like up there that try to think they're ready to be a publisher, and they're really not. They're just out for self. They're out to make money off your authors. They're out to make money off themselves. They just don't care but just the mighty dollar, just making that money.
I mean, that's true. I mean, as much as we try not to think about any of that, and, we just want to be an author and, publish our work and everything like that, we do need to think about that, because that can happen, and then we'll be stuck in a contract for we don't know how long, or stuck without our books after we get out of the contract or anything like that. I just want new authors to be aware of that, of what can happen. Yeah. You think you got into the best contract, the best publishing company and everything, and so on and so forth, and then it just does not work out for you, and then you're in a sour spot, and then you might want to self-publish, and then you're wondering, like, why didn't I just self-publish my own books? And then you may not even want to go to another publishing company because you're sour about it. Can I trust them? I would rather trust myself than I trust somebody else. So yeah,
that's true. I'd rather trust myself than to trust someone else, because like I said, when you're a new author that's coming out, you're thinking, like, for me, it was more, I want to get my name out there. I want people to know who Melissa LaDrew is. I want people to know, about my book or whatever. But, you know, we all make bad decisions, but we all learn from our bad decisions and know what to do and what not to do in the future coming. So for me, I would never, ever sign with another publisher ever again. And especially, like I said, we have support, you know, my 10 sisters, very supportive, where, you know, they know what to do, how to format, you know, how to get it up on Amazon. So we all use each other, you know, when we need help. Like you do the trailers, you do the book covers, and we all come to you for everything, Shy. You know that.
Yes, I do.
So I would never ever go to another publisher to give my money where some of them don't even do anything. They don't even promote you. You're basically promoting yourself. Basically what you're doing is you're just paying a publisher to get an editor, which you can find your own editor, get your own book cover, because some of them, you know, buy those. You can promote your own self and make all your money. Because you think about it, you're giving the publisher half your money, Amazon takes half your money, and that leaves you with nothing. So basically, you're writing to make nothing.
Exactly. That's why one of my friends, she said she has a certain view on publishing companies, and she said, like you said, never going to one. She did it once, never doing it again, because she doesn't have time. She does her own covers. She does her own formatting. She knows how to get her own editor, and so on and so forth. So why would she go to a publishing company? And why shouldn't she create her own company when she has her views on how a publisher should be towards their authors? And, you know, and she was telling me, she was like, you know, just be aware, anything before I had even signed to a new company. She said, just be aware of that. She's like, you don't want to be in this predicament again. Then you have people saying, oh, well, such and such can't stay with a publisher because this, that, and the other. No, that's not the reason. And that's when the gossip comes in. That's why I don't understand with the urban industry why we just can't just write our books. And, you know, communicate when we need to communicate. Why do we have to gossip? Why do we have to talk about this other person's book cover or this other person's writing and this, that, and the other? Okay, I get that when you need to talk about something, or maybe if you do need to talk about a such and such author, is when your book is getting plagiarized. I say this all the time on this show.
Exactly.
Copyright your work. And just pay attention to certain things. Because you can tell when someone is coming to you because they love your work and because they actually love you and your books. Then you can tell when that person's coming on some shady, whole bunch of shady, being messy, you know, trying to get the intel. And the whole time, they are copying off of everything that you have created.
Exactly. That's why I say I stay to myself and I keep my circle very small. I keep it small for a reason. I don't talk to much people on there. You never catch me into any drama. I don't get any drama because I keep only positive people in my circle. I don't want to hear about, you know, this person did this person did that, this person said that. If someone ever says anything about me, I don't care. You don't know me. It's social media. You don't know me.
Exactly.
And that's how I feel. You can say whatever you want about me. You don't even have to read my books. I wouldn't care.
Exactly. And to all my viewers that's listening right now, this is exactly why I wanted Melissa on the show. Because she keeps everything real. She's such full of positivity and lovely energy. So I don't see why anyone would want to come at her any type of way. That's exactly why I want her to show, to speak her mind. As I tell all authors on the show, tell it how you feel. Authors are telling all on my podcast. I have no problem with it at all. Say what you feel. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. I love you.
I love you
so
too.
Far.
So, after all of that great information and great talk, do you have any new books that you are working on?
Well, I have a book now. Not given a little release date just yet. But, you know, when you get finished with my cover, and I'll do the reveal then. But I have a book coming out pretty soon.
I love it. I'm not going to even lie, guys. I already knew. Because I be on her like, when's a new book coming out? I want a synopsis. Like, I want a snippet because I already know this book is going to be so good. So, yeah, there's that. Now, will you be going into any different genres maybe in further writing?
Well, I'm trying that, and I want to. Like with this book here, I don't know, I want it to be in between.
Mm-hmm.
For different readers, different, how can I say it? I want it where men can read it, women can read it.
Yes.
I don't want to just focus on just women saying, I can read that book because it has so much drama about her beating up her husband and, this and that.
Yes.
I want to where a man and a woman can come together and say, oh, you know what? That's a good read.
Exactly. And, I said that too. Because when I started, writing, I was always looking at my demographics and everything like that. And I was noticing, I was like, a lot of guys, a lot of men are not reading my stories. I seen like little small percentage, and then the big percentage was women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the age groups, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me do some targeting. Let me do some research. Let me try to put myself in a guy's perspective. Let me do that. And I wrote my first book in a single men perspective. And I made it both, like you said, both for the women to enjoy, and especially the men. When I did that, I seen everything change. I was like, okay, there we go. So why I just didn't, do a balance a long time ago? And then I did it again, but I kind of like split it, where like the roles were kind of changing, and I still was getting, the men were coming, to read the books. I was like, okay, there we go. Because they always say that men don't really read and then men don't write because that's a women thing.
Oh, no.
That's not true.
There's plenty of men out there that, read and write.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, yeah.
So I made sure when I seen that, I was like, I want my male readers, I want them to be able to read, like, if it's not, I can write an action story, but what about a action romance story? Will the man do that? That was part of my research. I was like, will the man read this? Did. I said, there we go. That's my target range right there. Right there is what they like. I was like, cool. That's where I'm going to go. To be able to get both. Not just one or the other, both.
Mm-hmm.
So, my last question is, if you were not an author, if you were not writing, what would be your job?
What I'm doing now, a lot of people don't know, I'm an ultrasound tech. So I've been doing ultrasound for about 18 years now. So I love it. Do I love the job? Yes, I do. So if I wasn't a writer, I would still just be doing, just me as an ultrasound tech and just doing like I'm doing, working 40 hours a week.
Yes, and I still am yet to understand how Melissa can balance the two, her writing and that. I was like, woman, you amaze me. I said this. I was like, you really, truly amaze me because you work really hard. And then you find the time to write this amazing series. And then many more to come. I was shocked.
I find time at work. So a lot of times at work. And then, like with the second book that came out, it came out a little bit late. But a lot of my readers were pushing me. Had so many readers in my inbox, and then, I had my pen sister on me saying, you need to get this going, you need to do it now, because, pretty soon you're going to lose your readers, this and that. So, you have to make time. So, when I say that, even though I was, busy at the time, because at first I was working 2 full-time jobs. I was working 16-hour shifts on Saturday and Sunday, and then I was working 40 hours during a week, so I was working 72 hours in 1 week. So 7 days a week. But, I found the time. You find time to doing things that you love. So I love writing. So, of course, I had to make the time.
Mm-hmm.
Rather it was me not sleeping, rather it was my lunch time, taking the time out to, write. Like I said, waking up out of my sleep, writing on my phone, whatever it takes, I do it. Especially when I have a patient and I'm waiting for them. I'll pull my phone out and I'll just start typing.
Yes, that is. And then that's very, when she told me this, how I didn't have any words, when she told me her job, I was like, wow. I was like, I can see that, because you're such a sweet lady. So I was like, I could definitely see that. Definitely can see that as your job. So I was like, that's beautiful. An author and that's beautiful. So for our last moments, I want to know, what advice would you like to give to all the new authors to come? What is your advice?
Well, I don't have any advice, but I think we all should stop having negativity against one another. I think that we all should come together, and if we can all come together, we can take over. We'll be all big, buy each other's books. If we buy one another books and take the time out to buy one another books, we all will be winning. Just support one another. There's a lot of authors out there that's not, like you said, we don't support each other. And I mean, I support everyone. When there's a new book out coming out, I always download their book. I'm in their, I'll go in their inbox, or I'm underneath their post and I'll post the book. Hey, I just downloaded your book. When I get a chance around to read it, I read them all.
Yes.
But I just say support one another. So if our urban community can just support one another, we all will be winning.
That is very true. I totally agree. Now, this is the time where you get your shout outs. You get to, shout out your books, your websites, your social media, everything above. This is your time.
Well, of course, I would like to shout out to my pen sisters, B. La Valentina, C. Dollface, Amaya, so, Riri, of course you, Shy. You always go in there.
Thank you.
Because I'm like, Shy, I put you in my book. You're on my shout out from the beginning.
Yes. I got a little teary-eyed.
But no, I just like to shout out to all my urban writers out there, and just let everybody know we should all come together and support one another. I have no negativity towards anyone at all. I like all my urban writers because, like I said, we all write in different ways. And just check me out on social media. You can check me out on IG, Melissa LaDrew. You can also check me out on Instagram. Well, I said IG, and Facebook, Melissa LaDrew.
Y'all heard it. Make sure you go on Amazon and you type in Melissa LaDrew, or you type in her series, You Got Me in a Bad Way, 1 and 2. If you haven't read it, if you haven't gotten it, please do. The book is amazing. I love you. She loves you. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Quiz Cube, where that beat again? Quiz Cube, where that beat again?
Just listen. Just listen.